What's up guys, it is me, Mad Samurai 84 here for November's edition of PS Plus Plays, where I kind of play through all the games that we got for November in our PS Plus subscription, and I tell you what I think is good and what I think is bad, and then I give thumb scores, whether I think it's a good game, I think it's a good offering, and at the end I give an overall score for the month. So far this year hasn't been great, it's been rather mid, some ups, some downs. Not really that many lows, probably low last month with Farming Sim, but hey ho, let's hope things can't get any worse than that. Anyway, we've got 3 new games. It's time to play through with them, see what we think, and yeah, hopefully it can't be as bad as last month. First game for November is Dragon Ball Breakers, which was released in October 2022, so just over a year old. And if you're me, you're like, oh great, another asymmetrical hide and go seek game. When you start the game, you have to endure some longish tutorial explaining everything, and also giving it a little story. Then it makes you do every mode once before you jump in for real. Firstly, you will think, wow, what an ugly game. And yes, you are right. Breakers look like it came out in 2012, not 2022. It's got low-res textures. The polygon count looks like it could be on par with some PS2 games. Uglyish character design. It looks really bad considering the past few Dragon Ball games we've had look great. Even Dragon Ball's Xenoverse, which came out in 2015, and it is also on the PS3, it looks better than this game. But, and this is a big but, when you start playing the game, you kind of start getting into it, having fun. That's what I've been getting. And you know, there are really just 2 online modes. You be a survivor with 7 other people, find the keys, try escape without being killed. Or you're a raider, where you have to hunt down all the survivors and win. Then there is this story mode and a practice mode. I'm actually quite surprised how much I have enjoyed the game. I'm not saying it's great, but it's actually okay and fun. The main issue with this game is that the controls are a bit clunky, especially when you're trying to engage in combat with the raider. It's pretty trash trying to control your character in the air, and even walking around isn't that great. It does feel like Namco made this game, knew it was super mid and no one would play, so they came up with the idea of giving it some Dragon Ball coat of paint, stick a little Dragon Ball story, then it all should be good. Which is true. If this wasn't Dragon Ball, it would have never made it to release, and you know, even if it did, it would have died an agonizing death inside a week. Yeah, I am not a fan of this type of game, and with the constant push buy more coins, get a new pair of socks or a chance to have some sort of character, the live service gacha model is not a thing I like, and it promotes rubbish ideas personally. But then I play another round and I think it's not that bad, but then after I think it wasn't that great and a big letdown for Dragon Ball games. Why isn't there a PS5 version first off of the game? It's like the game was supposed to come out at the start of the PS4 life cycle, but forgot to come out when it should have. It just doesn't make sense. Though I can say I might keep it on the hard drive for a bit longer because I like playing as a raider. It's quite fun. And if you can get into a game as one, you know, which that's the only also annoying thing is when you want to be a raider, you can't, it just sticks you in a survivor, which is a bit annoying. So I have sometimes been waiting a long time just to get into games, but sometimes I've been in like that. So it's just, you know, if you can't get in, if it's taking a while, just cancel it, restart it. I do plan on playing the story. I'm not sure how many episodes there are, chapters or whatever they want to call it, but I think there's a few. So, you know, I'm going to play through it, you know, of just trying to make sense of this whole game in a Dragon Ball Z universe. And yeah, I can understand it, but you know, just try to come up with a very, very loose story really. Really is. But when you look at its Metacritic, it's on the PS4. It's got a 54, really. Which, you know, to be honest, I can understand it getting that. I can understand it getting a little bit more. Now, I don't know what it was like at the start, but not great. Not super bad, but you know, super mid. It's not. As for a Dragon Ball game, it's rather pretty weak. And when you look at its user score, it sits at 51, so it's just kind of the same, really. Everyone thought it was the same. You know, it's not a terrible game, but it's not great. It's super mid. And you know, I think this has probably came a little bit further from its release. Because it's actually when you start playing it, you do start to have a little bit of fun after a couple of games of you getting into it. You just have to play a couple of games and start knowing what you're doing, and you start enjoying yourself. I know I have been. So for my thumb scores, what would I go with as a game score? I don't think it's too bad, but it's not too great. So I'm just going to go with a thumb in the middle. Really, you know, it plays alright. It looks okay. The story is meh, you know, but you know, it's still kind of fun in a way. You know, the combat is probably the weakest part of this. The survivor combat, really. But the raider combat is actually a bit better, and I don't know why they didn't do it like that. It's just meh. As an offering score, well, I don't think it's that great of an offering. Yes, it may be just a bit over a year old, but I think it should have probably been a better game. Yeah, this is probably like, you know, this is technically like the first game you get for the month, really. So it's technically probably should be the weakest, or like an indie type game. And yeah, this is probably one of those games you kind of go, oh, okay, all right. Well, at least I didn't have to pay for it. For instance, we're paying it with our subscription, but you know, you didn't have to pay for it with you know, buying it, really. But I think this game's on currently sell for like 12 UK pounds or something like that. I remember seeing. So I think as an offering score, I'm going to give it a quarter of a thumb up. You know, if you're a Dragon Ball fan, yeah, you give it a go. If you're one of those hide and go seek game, you know, enthusiasts, then yeah, you might enjoy it. But you know, it does have its downfalls. It's not great. It could probably be done with some more sort of modes, but you know, it's one of those hide and go seek games where, you know, you got, was it Death by Daylight? That's one of the hide and go seek games. But anyway, yeah, quarter of a thumb up for my offering score. Now, our second title for this month is Aliens Firestorm Elite. This came out in August 2021. Yeah, I kind of knew it came out, but I was just like, yeah, it's one of those alien games, really. You're not sure what you're going to get, really, of recent years. Either you get an Alien Isolation type game, or you get Colonial Marines. You just don't know. But this one saw in the shops, never saw anything of the game, and just ignored it, really. And you know, it's just one of those things. Like, you know, never saw gameplay, nothing. I just knew it didn't score well. It was just nothing, and then that was it. So I did not have any expectations for this game. You know, didn't know it was going to disappoint me or surprise me. And I have to say, this game has actually quite surprised me a bit. It's a semi-fun team shooter. The main negatives I can say is, you know, I think it should have been a team of 4, not 3, really, just so you can have, you know, a bit more people to play with, really. And it looks like, you know, another thing which is super annoying, which I don't like, and it just looks like bad development, to be honest. Really, I don't know why. And if you're gonna have all these characters you interact with in your main hub area, and they have all voice dialogue, and none of them move their mouths, you just go. They just stand there, and all this dialogue plays, and none of their mouth moves or anything. It just, like, it just comes across rather poor and lazy. Other than that, I have had a blast. Though I have yet to finish the first chapter, I've done the first like couple of parts of it, and even on standard difficulty, it can kick your butt. Especially that last one. I'm like, I've done it with a team, and I get towards the end, and we just get overrun right at the end. It's just crazy. But one thing I have to say, it gives off a great atmosphere, and the levels are like they've done a really good job of making you feel like you're in like sort of like the James Cameron Aliens area of the games, really, because that's what it is, Aliens. It's that part with the Marines. The aliens themselves are actually quite great, and they move really well, and they look pretty damn good. And even the unique xenomorphs are a nice, great addition. So it makes a nice change instead of just mowing down the same looking creature 5,000 times. And I think there might be, from what I can see, I can say 1, 2, 4, 5. I think there might be 5 different ones, or there might be a bit more of the unique xenomorphs. And they range from spitting ones, exploding ones, big tank ones. So it's very interesting what they've added to the kind of Aliens universe, and the controls are very responsive, and there isn't much to complain about apart from maybe not having a first-person view. Would have been probably quite nice as well. Have the third person and first person really, and have it as a have a really tight third-person shooter and first-person shooter would have been pretty cool, really. The game mainly centers around these 4 story chapters, which contain like 3 stages. Then supposedly, when you finish the story, you unlock like a horde mode, really. But it's like I have to finish the first chapter first to get onto the next one. The nice thing is you can play online with people or with bots on your team, which you can play so offline and offline, which is cool. But it does feel like they have missed a big opportunity by not adding some sort of other game modes on top of the story, other than the unlockable horde mode, really. I think maybe some sort of like fun, wacky party games mode would have been actually awesome. Something like that. And maybe having like the opportunity of being an alien would have been quite cool as well. That would have been quite cool. Something like that. But the more I think about it, the more comes to me of things that that I would like to nitpick when I'm like thinking and racking my brain. The hub area, which you are on the UAS Endeavour, which could have been full of cool things for you to do, but there isn't. Really, there is not much there, to be honest. It's the most boring place on Earth to actually be. You'll just be conversing with certain people of certain collectibles you found in levels while their mouths don't move, and then you can buy some weapons and skins and armor, etc. But other than that, there's nothing to do there. It's just a useless place to be. At least give us some mini games like the knife mini game or something else to do in that hub area. It's so boring and so pointless, really. Have some sort of like training area, like I don't know, shooting range, this and that, something. And the leveling up of the class and weapons feels very labor intensive. I don't mind putting in the work, but it really does feel like a grind and tiring grind to get anywhere with that. And I think that's actually a big thing, is that it does feel a bit of a grind to level up. It really, really does. And also, it's annoying with getting money, really. Like, you have to finish the level to get money, really. If you don't finish the level, you don't get any coins or anything to which you can buy stuff, really. So if you're like me and you're stuck on that last stage, you're like, oh, then you're going to have to replay. And it is actually quite annoying, really. Like, there should be ways, like, even if you die and fail, you don't get all of your money, but you get some coins or whatever for this and that you've kind of done, really. You know, you still get some of your XP of the stuff, guys, you killed. Really, why don't you get some of the coins? Really, it's just that. Really, but you know, I do like this game. There are more pluses than minuses for me. I definitely will keep this installed on my machine because in the end, it's actually quite fun with the minuses. When you look at its Metacritic, its PS4 it doesn't have a score. For its PS5, it got a 67. So I can go like, okay, I can probably get that. When you look at its user scores, PS4 sits at a 6.7 and a PS5 6.3, which I can get that whole 6-7 mark, really. It is that 6-7 out of 10 game, but it's actually quite a fun 6-7 out of 10 game, really. You know, there's nothing wrong with 6 and 7 out of 10 games, really. There's nothing wrong with them, but they shouldn't become the standard, really. But this one is like on the high end of this that 6-7 mark, really. These are the ones you like. You play and you're like, actually, this is actually quite fun. It's actually quite good, really. But then you got something like Dragon Ball Breakers, which is like actually that under that 6-7 mark. That's like the 5 mark, really. That's like that 5 out of 10, really. Could be 4, maybe that low 6. You could say in some parts, but that's what it is. But this is actually on the fun aspect, really. So I can understand why it kind of gets a 67, you know, or 6.3 on the PS5. You know, I can understand that scores, really. I wouldn't be giving it like an 8 out of 10, but I can also see if someone gives it a 7. Really, I get it. So for me, because I've been quite so surprised, when I look at my thumb scores, what should I give it? For me, this is on that upper mark, at 7 high, at 7 high 7, 6, 7, but it's actually quite good, I feel like. So my game score, I'm going to give it a 3/4 of a thumb up because it's actually quite fun to play, really. And I think you can get the DLC, which is on sale, which I'm actually tempted to get. To be honest, I'm tempted to get that DSL and add it onto it, even though I haven't been able to finish the first story chapter, and I've been trying to get my friend to get his PS Plus sorted so we can probably play together and have some fun. But yeah, a 3/4 of a thumb up. You know, it's not the best looking game, but it actually looks quite good. And those aliens, you know, mowing down the aliens is actually quite fun, really. And what I didn't say is the sound effects of the pulse rifle. Ah, magnifique. As an offering score, what would I go with? Well, because it's a bit over 2 years old, but I feel like this probably hasn't sold well, so this is probably good for it to come out free on PS Plus. To get those people in, get people to buy those DLC, and it's quite a fun squad game. You can play on your own, play with a team. You know, it's a bit of a shame that there's not more kind of other modes, and there's a lot more which could have actually been better with this game. But I think overall, I think it's actually quite a good. So I think this is actually alright offering, really. So I'm going to give a offering score of a 3/4 of a thumb up, really, because I'm actually quite enjoying the game. And you know, when you actually get one of these games, you think, oh, actually, I'm going to keep this on my hard drive. It's actually much better than you thought, really. So, and this is one of those ones where I'm actually going to keep it on my machine for a bit longer than I was expecting. I wasn't expecting it to keep me as long as that. Now we are on to our last game for November, and our last game is Mafia 2 Definitive Edition. Now this is obviously definitive, a remaster of the original PS3 game that came out on PS3, which came out in August 2010, so 13 years ago. And this is the PS4 game, really. So there's no main PS5 game this month. It's a PS4 game, a remastered PS4 game. And this came out in May 2020, so it's about 3.5 years old, really, this remaster. But overall, the game is about over 13 years old. But, you know, this is the second time we have got Mafia 2. We got this for the PS3 and PS Plus in July 2013, so 10 years ago, a bit over 10 years ago, we got this for it. And you know what? It's quite funny, 10 years later, we get the remastered Definitive Edition. You know, I played through the PS3 one, and I really enjoyed it. And I have to say, I was actually expecting to get this definitive edition. You know, we got the remake of the first Mafia in February this year, which I really thoroughly enjoyed, and I played through it. You know, as I said, I played through the PS3 version of this Mafia, and I enjoyed it. So I was expecting for them to, for us to get the definitive edition of Mafia 2 this year in 2013. I just knew it. I just knew it. But so after playing like the first Mafia, I was expecting for it to get the same. I didn't know. I just saw definitive edition. I thought it was going to get the same graphical treatment as the first one, and to my displeasure, it is nothing like it. This is just a high-res PS3 game, which kind of makes it uglier than the PS3 version. So you'll go through this game not really bothered by it until you see cutscenes where you'll notice the ugliness and some atrocious frame rates within those, basically going through to 0, staying still, then going back up. There is also all this glitchy graphical bugs throughout the game. You'll see like builders flickering in and out into some neon rainbow frame, things popping in and out, and, you know, textures popping up, this and that. You know, there are like the pop in and out is so dreadful. It's like they did the bare minimum and made the game run worse. And yeah, I know this is technically like the PS3 game. Well, it's probably not actually the PS3 version of the game, but you know what I mean. It's that era. You think, oh well, you know, there was pop in and pop out. That, yeah, but you know, without actually having to play it, I don't think it could have been that bad. And like all the graphical bugs are just, there's so many, just flickering, glitching out. It's just like, what is going on? You know, other than those issues, oh, I've had so many crashes. I've been privy to, which I'm counting to like well over 20 plus so far during like my main playthrough. The controls are basically the same and work well enough, even though feeling slightly dated in parts, really. And I did feel like they did the same with the first Mafia. It did feel a little bit clunky. It felt like old controls. It didn't feel like modernized. There's also some issues with the camera, which I hate. If you face someone and they are talking to you and you move the camera, the audio will cut out, which is terrible design. I still want to be able to hear it. It's just like, if you're walking or running and then you move the camera, you will then move with the camera. And you can get stuck in doing like a circle until you stop. Just fix these damn bugs. It's just like, it's terrible. Other than all these bugs and issues and crashes, it's actually a really decent game with a great cast of characters and story, really. It's just a shame it's just all these bugs are sitting on it, really. Poor craftsmanship is sitting on a good game. The vehicle control is good, and the city is actually quite a joy to drive around and experience. But unfortunately, outside of the story, there isn't. You know, there's very little to do apart from looking for collectibles. There's no really side missions or activities to do outside of the story, which was the problem with the first game. I thought there wasn't really much to do. But the nice thing is, the definitive edition is that we get all the DLC that came out. Now, I finished playing through Mafia 2, so I thought I would just play through the DLC. 2 are of a character, Jimmy, you don't know or care about. Then after about 5 crashes of trying to play through them, gave up and moved on. Really, I moved on. I was like, I can't do any more crashes. So I moved on to the next one, the last one, which was called Joe's Adventure, which follows the period when our main character is locked up. So we see what his friend Joe got up to in that period of time, really. And which at the start I found interesting, but I soon became quite bored of it and found that This didn't really add anything to the character. They would have been better giving you an interesting story of what happened at the end to him, really. It would have been a better of like an arc, really. Yeah, you could do a little period, but give me more after of what happened to him, really. Because that's what me personally. If you play through the game, if you haven't played through it, that would be more interesting, really. Some sort of story, a little arc. That's it. And they've tried to make it more open, really, of you just driving to of the DLC of like, oh, make it more open instead of it being like really story mission focused. Really, it's like it's more open. You drive to the places to do this and that, and you can choose which one you want to do, and you open them up. But another crash here and there just put me off playing the game anymore. I just couldn't. But in the end, let's not pull any punches. Why is this the main game for this month's PS Plus? A remastered PS4, PS3 game with tons of bugs, really. The first game was, I'm pretty sure it might have been the first game for February, I think. I would have to double check. I think it might have been like the first initial game. I'm pretty sure it did. Yeah, oh no, it was technically the same. We had Ollie Ollie World, Mafia Definitive Edition, Evil Dead, and then we got the Beyond Light expansion and Destiny 2 Beyond Light expansion. So it was kind of like the middle one, the second one, really. And yeah, this shouldn't be the kind of main title game for the month. It really should not have been at all. It should have been much lower on the card and something better be up front, really. And it's quite funny when you look at its Metacritic. The PS4 version, the Definitive Edition, got a 56. Then you look at the original PS3 version, they got a 73. It shows you how bad this version is. You look at the user scores, the PS3 sits at a 5.8. The original PS3 one sits at an 8. And I agree with you, it is an 8, really. The original is an 8 because it was a very good game. But there's so many issues with this. And I spoke to a friend of mine and I told him, like, oh, I had so many crashes. Like, he played it ages ago. And he said, oh, I didn't really experience any problems. I'm like, obviously it's got even worse. Or he was just super lucky, but there's so many bugs with it. It's so poor. It's poor craftsmanship by a country mile. But in the end, we should need to give our thumb scores for it. We need to just not dwell too much. What would I give as a game score? Well, I would like to be giving this a 3/4 thumb up, but because this is such a poor version. It's so bad, so all the crashes and problems. I can only give it a 1/4 thumb up. So all the crashes, all the graphical problems, and the problem is, it's sitting on actually a really solid game, which actually still pretty solid. You know, solid story. It's still pretty solid and actually quite fun to play. You just have to get over the crashes and having to restart. That's the problem. As an offering score, yes, it is the second time we've got it. This is the Definitive Edition. It is a 3.5-year-old game. This is something that probably should have come earlier in its life cycle, but it should not have been the main cast for the month. So I'm going to give this another 1/4 thumb up because I can't give it a thumb in the middle, but I can't give it a thumbs down, really. Just, what have you done? If they fix everything, which I don't see them doing, then great, but very, very sad. Now we've played through all the games. We've given all our scores. We should really put an overall score for the month. Now, we started off with Dragon Ball Breakers. Wasn't too sure about this game, but as I started to play through it, I started to enjoy it more and more and more. And it has its issues. It's not great. It it doesn't have the greatest graphics or controls or mechanics. Looks like you wouldn't think it was released in 2022. And yeah, it has going so much against it, but it's an alright game. Nothing great, nothing too overly bad, but it's not great. It's middle of the ground at its very best. I went with a game score of a thumb in the middle and an offering score of a quarter a thumb up. And then our second game was Aliens Firestorm Elite. Now, that game, never played it before, never really seen anything before. A team-based kind of game. You can play it offline, online. Really, there's really just a bit of a story mode. Nothing really any other modes. There is a horde mode once you've completed all the story chapters, but that's it. It is fun, not perfect again, but it actually took me by surprise how much I was actually enjoying it. And there is DLC going for cheap, but it would have been nicer if they kind of put a little bit more effort in some areas than more. But I gave that a game score of a 3/4 of a because I thought it was a good like 7-ish out of 10 out of game ish, yeah, 7 out of 10 game. Really, I gave it benefit of the doubt because I'm enjoying it, and I gave it an offering score of another 3/4 of a heart because it's quite fun, and I'm going to keep it on my hard drive for a bit longer. And then to cap off the month, we had Mafia 2 Definitive Edition, and yeah, knew this was coming since we got the first Mafia Definitive Edition earlier this year, and this is it's shocking. It's it's not a remake or anything. It's a really bad remaster, really, with tons of bugs, tons of just so many crashes, and that's a shame because it's actually a good game, but has so many problems with it, and it's just a shame that such a bad job has been done at it. They would have been better off kind of giving it the whole Mafia 1 coat of paint and actually doing some work on it, but it seems like they've tried to do the most minimal amount of work on this as possible, which was it's just very poor. I gave this a game score of a 1/4 of a thumb up and an offering score of a 1/4 of a thumb up because it should have been the lead game for the month. It's a PS4 game. At least give us a PS4, PS5 game, and it's especially a game that's in such bad condition. It's terrible. Now, what do I do overall for November? What do we give it? What do we give it? Well, it's another kind of very mid-ish month, really. Really, nothing great. Nothing too terrible. At least it's not Farming Simulator. At least it's not that. That could have been really bad. But I'm going to go with an overall game score for November. I'm going to give it a mid score of a thumb in the middle because that is all this month is worth. Yeah, not great. You know, some of the games are okay, but things need to get better, especially with them putting the price up of things. They need to do better and give better. I know these deals are probably done in quite a bit in advance, really. This is probably done a few, I don't know what's the lead time. It could be like 5 months, 4 months, 3 months, ago they did it. But it needs to be better. It needs to be. An overall offering score, well, yeah, it's not great. I think the quality is, to be honest, it would have been better if the lead game was something else, but they've led with a remaster that's pretty broken in a way, and a remake of a PS3 game, which is just PS4 version, and yeah, it has lots of bugs, and yeah, I don't like that. So I'm going to give an overall offering score for November a 1/4 of a thumb up because it's not good enough. It's not good enough. They should be doing better. So that's it. Overall game score, thumb in the middle. Overall offering score, quarter of the thumb up. Yeah, quite disappointing. Very mid and below par. It is very, very below par. Hopefully things get better for December. Hopefully they go out with a bang for November. Fingers crossed. But do I have any hope? So far, yeah, this year hasn't been great. Last year was much better, if I remember correctly. It was pretty solid, but yeah, 2023 has not been a good year. It kind of makes you think, like, why am I getting this? You know, the PlayStation Plus catalog has been better, but that needs to get better as well, especially when they're upping it. And the whole thing of them saying upping it so they can provide better. So start providing better, really. That's what people want. People now want what's best for their wallet. That's why you have so Game Pass warriors saying this is the best deal in gaming. Well, yeah, it is the best deal, really, but it isn't. It is and it isn't really. Is it the best for the is it the best for the industry? Probably not. Look at the movie industry and look at the retail industry. Look at the music industry as well. Look what that's done to it, and done to those people, done to the people who actually do the work. Really, it's not the probably right thing to do. Going, I don't mind doing digital thing, but you know, there comes a price overall, and it's all going into one person's pocket, really, and it means less for a lot more for just a very few. Let's put it that way. That's what it is. Anyway, let's turn off that depressing note. Yeah, let me know what your thoughts. What did you think of the games for November? Were you surprised or were you bitterly disappointed? I wouldn't be surprised if you're bitterly disappointed. What do you hope for December? Do you think December they'll go out with a bang? Or do you think it will be another mid-month? Well, only time will tell. Anyway, please like and subscribe to the channel. That'd be great. And until next time, I shall see you soon. Take care and look after yourselves. Goodbye.